Hello and welcome to the College Football Mafia Big 12 Mafia Show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my partners in crime on this little adventure we got going here. That would be the Wild Ute, Immaculate, and who is that guy down in the corner?
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy? He's got a name. It says Moen, but I'm not sure that's who it is.
Vaya con Dios, muchachos y muchachas.
Hola!
El Moen.
Oh my hell, that's going to be funny to deal with. We appreciate you being here, Moen. We know you've been under the weather, so I'll leave that up to you how much you want to tell people about your status. But we're very glad that everybody's here tonight. We're going to have a special guest come on. That's going to be Bob Thompson. He's going to be joining us. Let's see, he might even be here right now. Nope, he's not here quite yet. But when he joins, we'll be able to talk all realignment, the Washington State, Oregon State contract news, and what's up to date on the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, and everything else there. And then anything else we can think about. So I want to appreciate everybody for being here right at the beginning. And there's Bob right there. Appreciate everybody being here at the beginning. We're going to be going as long as we go tonight. There's, the timers on us have sort of been on extension, but we're going to shoot for right around 2 hours. Bob will be here as long as he can stand us, and we're gonna go with that. Really quick, I want to thank everybody. I want to make sure everybody subscribes, follow us all on Twitter, and then turn on your notifications. Okay, Bob, how are we doing tonight?
I'm very well, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Excellent.
We're doing very good. Moen, you took your outfit off too early. Bob didn't get to see you.
I'm just happy to see Moen up and about.
Yeah,
that's right.
I can't wear the luchador mask all the time, guys. I got a big nose and a fat head. It doesn't fit. I got it at the flea market for $5.
Okay. All right. Let me get some quick shout outs before we get going, and then we'll jump right into questions with Bob. First person here tonight, Buckshot Kid. He's in here. Ryan Willie is in the house. There's his. Let's see here. Timothy Green, Rock Chalk 94. And we'll get to these comments again in the backside if we have time. But there's a lot of good ones right there you guys are putting out. And I'll try to bring them up when we're talking to Bob. Daniel Gygax, it's good to have him here. Jan Holk, all the way from Slovenia. Congo from What's Up, everybody. Thank you, Congo. I appreciate that. Let's see here. J-Baller 54. Rock and Rant, one of our contributors, says college football chat GPT. Nice. Is that what we are? I don't know if we're quite there. We're close. A couple more. We have Tempest. Why does Moen look like Rey Mysterio? Where'd it go?
That's not Rey Mysterio.
Okay.
This is psychosis.
Psychosis. Okay. All right.
Psychosis.
All right. Please don't put it back on. I don't want you to get it stuck. And then Glenn Lumen, we'll end with him. Good morning from the Philippines. Okay. Bob, normally we start off asking you questions, but tonight I'm going to start with you asking us questions. Is there anything on the top of your mind that you think we cover or that we might be able to answer any questions for you? It's been about, 3 weeks since we spoke last.
Wow. Hit me with a zinger.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a zinger. I'm just wondering if you have any questions.
Shot, Bomber.
I prepared to answer your questions, not to ask questions.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I can come back to
Let me ask you that. No, let me ask you this. Just what's
Okay.
kind of what's you guys' general take on the new CFP deal?
Yes.
Who wants to? Okay, go ahead, Immaculate.
Sure. I found it from the get-go. We were talking. I think that it was basically an entire rewrite of the CFP LLC. They've had. Would you say that it was kind of like figuring out the ownership shares for a company between a closed number of owners? That's what it felt like to me.
I mean, it's clearly was a rewrite when, in the past, the A5s were all considered equal.
Yes.
And there was clearly a redistribution of the wealth amongst the P2 and to a lesser extent, the other two of the four.
Yep.
And then there was the G5s all got a raise and Oregon State, yeah, a little bit. Oregon State and Washington State took to the woodshed.
Did you see the deal that they struck in the final minute?
I did. I think what that was, I was talking with somebody today. It was the 360,000, which was the initial number, was called a brushback pitch. It was a message that was being sent to President Schultz. We're tired of your stalling. Let's move on.
So yep.
Okay. Let's move on with this, and then voila! The next day, it's 3.6 million,
which is exactly double the G5 payout, right? Is that
right.
what you? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that the message was sent and the message was received, and I think the Pac-12 new commissioner, Commissioner Gould, did a great job in getting them up to that point. And I think it's probably a good number. They've been getting 6. They're not going to get 21, and it's 3 years, which kind of suggests to them, you guys better figure this out in that time frame, and then we'll take another look at it once you have a conference, if you have a conference.
Go ahead, Mac.
Follow up to that, since we're kind of bringing up the whole ownership shares type of a situation. We've got payout percentages, which is one half of that. The other half of ownership shares in a corporation like that would be voting. Would you say that this was one answer for both of those? Like the percentages that we got for payouts is also the percentages that we have for voting? Or would you say that might be different and we just didn't hear about that?
I think it might be different. We didn't hear about it. Okay. I don't know that the dollars are necessarily going to break out to voting percentage as well.
Okay.
Bob, what do you think about that?
I think that the CFP deal is massively disappointing at 1.3 billion. I've even seen your tweets saying that really it's a lot smaller jump than you'd expect if you're looking at like a year-over-year basis, the expiration of the prior contract to the beginning of this contract.
Right.
It's almost shockingly low compared to what folks were talking about beforehand, and like the almost $2 billion range and everything. So
right.
I'm still a little shocked, and I realized the Bulls, all the the Rose Bowl and everything else was included in the last package, but still, I think that was a loss, and it just is subject to the media market right now. That tight media market, it's just not a great time to go to market with that package. And so
yeah, they did certainly face some headwinds with the kind of the realities of the media business. Cord cutting is continuing and doesn't seem to want to slow down at all. In fact, it seems to be accelerating. And I think, ESPN has, as an incumbent, has such a preferential position, especially while you're trying to redo the last 2 years of a current deal. That is just a tremendous spot for them to be in. And so they kind of call the shots here as it relates to what can be done for the next 2 years. And certainly they have probably some preferential rights going forward. First, right of refusal, right to match, you can name, there's a laundry list of them. And really my guess is the only thing they're interested in offloading might be the first 4 games. And so, and in those games, if that's all that was available to other suitors, that probably served to tamp down the bidding a little bit would be my guess. And, we'll see ultimately if somebody decides to come in and pick up some number of games, whether it be the first 4 or the second 4. But I can pretty much guarantee you ESPN is going to hang on to, I guess, and now ABC is going to hang on to the distribution of the semis and the champ game.
Do you think that there's such a low value in the first 4 games because of the G5 inclusion of it? That the G5 spot's going to be in it. So is that just pulling down the value, or what's the reasoning behind that?
I don't know. I mean, they have one of those now, don't they?
Yeah,
they do. Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
So I think what it really pulls it down is it's funny. One thing that I think is intriguing is the on-campus aspect. But the flip side to that is, if you look at some 5 versus 12s, or potentially, 5 versus 14, or that could be dicey. I mean, there could be some lopsided games, and I think that was something that was taken into consideration and attaching a value to those 4 first round games.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Moen, what do you think about the CFP?
Well, Bob, I just saw the schedule released today from December 20th to January 1st between college football playoff games, NFL football games, and the regular college football bowl season. We're looking at upwards of 80 games, I think.
Wow.
Is there ever a time when too much becomes too much? Do you think fatigue might set in trying to pack that much football in that small of a time window?
You think about that, but then you look at like last weekend with the NCAA, both the men's and the women's, the highest viewed first 2 rounds ever.
Right.
And my eyes were shot after this weekend. Then on Monday I have to watch Caitlin Clark play. So
that's right.
Along with 5 million other people apparently.
Right.
So the fatigue factor, if it affects anybody, it's going to affect probably the lower rated bowls and some of the which is usually what gets affected first is the weak parish and the strong rise.
Right.
So, and then I saw today the NFL's gonna, even though it's a Wednesday, they're gonna play a game on Christmas Day.
2 games.
And
Really?
how are
Okay.
you gonna do that? Well, apparently they're gonna have people play the Saturday before and then play Wednesday, which is basically the same as doing a Sunday, Thursday gig. So from that standpoint, I'm sure that only upset people there are the NBA, given the Christmas Day is kind of
right.
So
my question and answer to that topic is all rolled up into one thing, and that's the Brett Yormark Lookin and how that is going to apply to future realignment, which we obviously speak about a lot around here. How important is that Lookin, and does it really give Brett Yormark specifically, not even talking about conferences, an advantage over the ACC, because the ACC still has to lose schools?
Look, looks have been out there for years. I mean, they can be for a variety of things. They can be to remedy a economic divide. Say the marketplace changed significantly during some portion of a contract, and there would be a provision to look and see what the market is paying other people, other properties, things like that. I think this one, I don't know that this benefits the Big 12 more than anybody else. I think what it does is it kind of recognizes the fact that there's probably going to be some continued movement sooner rather than later. And it would allow for some, I don't know what you say, rejuggling of the numbers that are currently in place based on what happens. And that's why I assume that Brett asked for that. It's smart, I think, but I don't know that it gives him any greater advantage than anybody else. My guess is they all have the right, or they all have the right to trigger it, not just the Big 12. So I think that it's something that they can certainly take a look at where things stand in 2028 and make a decision if they want to reopen the deal and structure it in a different manner.
Okay, I got a few super chats, and then Immaculate's got a follow up to those last questions we were just talking about. First of all, Sergeant Pickles, one of our members and one of our contributors, has his own show, Big West Mafia, on Monday nights at 8 Eastern. It says, when I get home, throwing one back for Moen. So there we go. Moen,
Cheers to
there's
you,
your
Moen.
throwback. Is that one of your new sounders? Do
Yes,
that again.
that's the
Do that
Sounds-
again.
Ice cubes.
Okay.
Love that sound.
So he got himself a present over the weekend. So
Surprise.
Lonnie Johansson for $2. Another one of our members says, "Good evening from Northeast Kansas. Go BYU and UAU."
Look at
Yeah,
that playing
I
nice in the
appreciate that.
sandbox. BYU fan
Appreciate
playing nice in the
that.
sand. Appreciate that, Lonnie.
Another one from Lonnie Johansson saying, "Praying for the people in Baltimore on the bridge." I think everybody saw that horrible video this morning. Just no blaming out there. Let's just get them the help they need. And dang, I worry about the people with their families. That was a horrible, horrible disaster. And then one more here, Rock and Rant, another one of our contributors, and also a member for $5 says, "No one will watch the Depends is there for." Can somebody say that for me?
The Depends is there for you, Bull.
That's
The
a joke.
Depends is there for you, Bull.
It's a joke.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Matchup of G5 versus G10, but they will watch 5 versus 14, even if it's a blowout for the playoffs. Can somebody?
I would
point that out
say,
for me?
yeah, I would say he's probably right, and they'll watch the 5 versus 14 until it's a blowout, and then they'll change the channel.
Ooh,
Depends
I
on how
like
many
that.
other games are on at the time, too.
Exactly.
I like that though. I like the distinction. That's really good. Then one more super chat from Ryan Willie for $5. A very valuable member. He says, "Do you think NBA will give up their Christmas Day games now that the NFL and CFP have moved in?"
No, I think that would be kind of a sign of weakness on the NBA's part to do that. I would be surprised.
Okay. Immaculate. Go ahead.
Nope, that's actually exactly the question I wanted to ask. I had that one and another one. Ed Wayner here is saying, how much of an advantage does ESPN have over other potential CFP bidders by controlling those bowls? And it's not just those bowls, though, right? I mean, this comes down into bowls after that ESPN has TV contracts with. Did that give them basically carte blanche in this discussion with the CFP on as far as terms?
No, I don't think so. I mean, now the bowls are all lined. It used to be there was a Rose Bowl deal, there was a Sugar Bowl deal, there was an orange and cotton deal, and then the other two are the citrus and
there's the Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, I think it is.
Bowl.
Whatever
Used to be the Peach Bowl, I think.
Yeah. So those were all done separately. Now it's pretty much, my understanding is they're all aligned, and those bowls have all done deals with the CFP.
Oh, so they don't have a deal with ESPN anymore.
Well, they do, but they won't going forward.
What year does that end? Do you know? Or
It's probably the original deal, the original 12-year deal. So I would say that they're set for the last 2 years, because if you recall, there was the big stink with the Rose Bowl, was one of the things that was holding up the expansion from 4 teams to 12, because the Rose Bowl wanted to be always guaranteed that they'd be, get a 2:00 kick on New Year's Day. And, you can't be a semifinal and have that guaranteed. You just can't have it. So this, Rose Bowl ultimately acquiesced. And so my understanding now is that starting in 2027, everybody's agreed for the next 2 years and going forward. So the ESPN separate deals with the New Year's Six will cease to exist. They'll be covered under the CFP umbrella.
Gotcha. And if I could real quick, we talked about kind of the CFP and the new deal and how they figured it out. I'm really kind of interested to see what you have to say on this. Do you think that the value of the way they're figuring this out is being based on the conferences themselves and how many times they've been in, or is it more directly put on the shoulders of the schools themselves, the teams themselves that play? So, as you said, as schools move coming up here in the future, and will the values directly go with them? Say Clemson, with how many times they were in, people are projecting them to be moving. When they moved to say like the SEC, does all that, the value of their 7 times, does that go with them? Is it just partial? Like what? How do you see that happening?
They didn't really state how it was figured out. I mean, I saw a couple of calculations that showed that the percentage that the Big Ten and the SEC were in the Final Four, one of the Final Fours, and the ultimate winner was pretty closely tied to the percentages of money they were getting. But if you go back and look at it, there hasn't been a Pac-12 school in there forever. Obviously,
Right.
The Big 12 school, TCU's been there once. The other two have now left.
Yep.
Oklahoma and Texas have now left and gone to the SEC. And you've got the 2 schools. Really, maybe Wisconsin was in there once. I can't remember, but Michigan and Ohio State from the Big Ten, and then you've got the ACC guys and 2 schools from the SEC guys, and then 2 schools from the ACC, Clemson and Florida State have been in there as well. So it kind of looked like that it was somehow related to the percentages, but I tried to tie the numbers back together and I couldn't do it. So
yeah, same. All right. So to some degree, but not fully. Probably.
Right. Right. And I think if people move, their legacy is going to travel with them.
Gotcha. So that's a big deal right there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if someone moves who has no legacy in the CFP, I don't know that necessarily is going to diminish anybody. If somebody, if they move to a different conference, but certainly if a strong entity that has a history moves, I would think that at some point, again, performance is going to matter going forward, that at some point there would possibly be, an alteration of the percentages.
Here's a super chat from Tony Lawson for $5. He says, Bob, if the Big Ten gets FSU, who do you think would be more valuable add, Clemson or Miami, to the Big Ten from a TV standpoint?
Good question.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's one I can't really go down that road.
Yeah. That's a really good question.
It is.
It's good.
The answer's Clemson there.
Just for people, it's not I'm trying to dodge it, but I do have some business commitments that kind of preclude me from making those kind of predictions or suggestions.
That's all right.
Based on TV ratings, really over the last 8 years, it's Clemson. Like a strong margin.
And let me show you quick. Hey, have you seen all of our shorts, Bob? Let me just bring up to the front of the stage so everybody knows what we're talking about. Wild Ute University, we did all these shorts, and Clemson to the Big Ten, Florida State to the Big Ten, UNC, Miami. These videos were all worked out, and I believe that unless do you have them memorized now, Ute? In order, what was their ascending value? Can you tell everybody?
The ascending value, Florida State's extremely valuable. That's the big takeaway here in Notre Dame. We don't have a video on, but they're the most valuable. That's another takeaway. Clemson and Miami are very valuable too. UNC's like this, has this big brand and everything, but they're up for debate. People always want to debate really how valuable they are. I think they're extremely valuable as well. Probably right there next to Florida State. So really UNC, Florida State, and Notre Dame are your 3 jewels when it comes to value.
All right. Really quick, if you want access to those videos, you can. Right now, they're all for free. There is one that's under the lock and key. Which video is that, guys? What's the one?
That's
under lock?
Oregon State and Wazoo, and also we have a Coos video too.
That's right, Coos Corner. Let me bring that back up so I can point both those out. Wild Ute University, these are both members only, but Wild Ute University, should the Big 12 add Oregon State, Washington State? People have been asking for that one forever. And then this Coos Corner, why Notre Dame will not join a conference. If you haven't watched the regular videos, all these that are not members only, I recommend you do it. If you want to become a member, you can be at the head of the pack and know more than almost anybody else you'll come across on Twitter or on YouTube to get the information to answer the question about Washington State, Oregon State, and then Notre Dame. to the Big Ten. Okay, the next question I want to get to is actually just a follow-up from a tweet that you replied to, Bob. Let me bring this up. It was about this. It was this Sportico video they did saying how the basketball credits worked, right?
Right.
And your comment here is the best explanation of how March Madness money is earned and distributed that I have ever seen. We're not going to listen to the video. I believe it's several minutes long, 5.5 minutes long. I'll post the link. But tell us, what you thought about that. And was there anything in there that you learned about how those credits are actually distributed?
Well, it's just, it's kind of, it's very, I don't want to say dumbed down, but it's just very concise and clear as to how it's laid out. And the one thing that I did learn that I wasn't aware of, I mean, I knew it's spread over a number of years and that the payouts change each year, and it's pretty much at a conference level as opposed to individual schools. Although there are some situations like the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga that, they have a kind of a supercharged version of revenue sharing there. But the fact that because in 2020 there was no tournament, that the units are actually going to go down in value once that year goes away, because
right.
you're, without having that tournament, there was no units that year. So the numbers reflect the fact that that happened. And so they're artificially high right now. And so next year, the number, or in a couple of years, the numbers actually go down. But right now, I think every unit was worth like $2 million this year. Now that's paid forward over the next 6 years. That's why everybody was watching, OSU and WSU
right.
root and cheer for the Pac-12, because every time there was a win, it was a cha-ching of $2 million.
Right. Very good. You have a few questions.
Absolutely.
Preparing.
The namesake really of this live show, Bob, is we're hoping to go down like a hypothetical train with you, right? Like just kind of say what could happen right here and like what you think would be the fallout, and have a conversation around that, because that's been on a lot of folks' minds. So say that say there is movement in the ACC over the next year, and then early next year ESPN decides not to opt in to that contract. Okay, we're living in a world, say, where those events happened. What would the fallout be afterwards for ESPN if they decided not to opt in to the TV contract? What would ESPN likely do, or what could they do to fill content if they're not showing ACC games anymore?
So are you making the assumption that the ACC is gone?
I'm making the assumption that the ACC has lost some valuable brands, like, say, a Florida State and a Clemson, and maybe Miami too. And that the content there, the brand content, isn't as strong as it currently is. So even if ESPN were to renegotiate a contract to be at a much lower price with smaller brands,
right?
Essentially.
Not talking about the particulars of the ACC television contract or the particulars of ESPN's outs,
right.
options, whatever. I mean, the composition clauses, things along those lines. It really would depend on what's left. I mean, the important thing you have to remember for ESPN is, they're in the content business, and they're in the business to televise games, and they need to do, it's a 24/7, beast that never stops eating, and they need to have top-rated content from all parts of the country. I think that when you look at what they're going to do with the Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery streaming venture, Spulu, call it whatever you want, and what the fact that they're going to launch ESPN, the mothership, as a direct-to-consumer offering as well at some point in 2025, I just find it really hard to see them walking away from content that they have at it's a pretty good deal right now. I guess the question becomes, somehow the ACC is not, is a shadow somehow of its former self and can't be put back together with some attractive potential other schools, then sure, I guess ESPN would take a look at it. They've got to look with their Major League Baseball contract coming up, and as a prudent businessman, if you have that option, obviously you negotiated it in there for a reason, and that maybe you felt there was potential, trouble on the horizon, and you wanted to be able to reassess your business. So I can see why ESPN did that. I don't know how it relates to, and nor does anybody really, how it relates to the ACC network. Does that subject to the look as well, or is it just the main ABC ESPN contract? So there's a lot of unknowns out there that kind of make it hard to answer that question. I think ultimately, as we see now, the courts are going to decide, or there's going to be a negotiated resolution one way or the other. Mm-hmm. The question then becomes, I guess there was 6 or was it 7 schools who voted against the ACC expansion? Does it, if somebody comes to a resolution, is there a piling on effect? The other question is, where do these people all think they're going to go? They got to be invited somewhere, and rightfully right now, all the conferences that are out there are being very quiet because nobody wants to be accused of, tortious interference with another conference's membership. So you're not going to hear anything, but there's not even whispers. So, and that makes sense. But if there's 6 people looking for a new home, I don't know, if there's not an insatiable appetite out there. And certainly the broadcast networks have kind of said, we're a little tapped out right now. And you can see that just by the CFP deal. So, and you've got the NBA coming up and you've got UFC coming up. So there's going to be some other big checks written here pretty soon. And, you just got to be careful how you go forward, and maybe the position you're in right now isn't maybe as bad as you think it is.
Would there potentially be an opportunity for say if the Big 12 happened to add a few ACC teams as well as the SEC, would there be an opportunity to take some of the ACC content that's currently on ESPN's platform? So in other words, to renegotiate the SEC contract or the Big 12 contract for a bigger chunk, more exposure, more money, if the ACC happens to be weakened?
I can't go there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fair. It's very fair. Immaculate, did you have a follow-up?
Actually, on that subject, that's a pretty tough one to get into, Bob, with, just for obvious reasons.
Right.
I had some other questions on the side once you guys are good with that one to bring up, but I had one about previously with the units and your tweet about them. Just kind of want to get your thought. In the 6-year terms that we're kind of looking at, that's how long payouts are for one.
Right.
Does that make 2026 that much more valuable because the 2020 blank period will be gone and we'll be back to having a 6-year payout versus a 5-year payout?
No, I think actually the payout goes down.
Well, you'll have 6 years of pay coming in versus just 5. So there should be a spike in pay in 2026, right?
Yeah, but that's what I thought. But if you watch the video, it actually shows it going down. And maybe I watched it, wrong.
No, you're correct. It's because the COVID year, there wasn't a revenue.
But that's 2020. Like, we're down right now, but 2026 is when it should go back up because we'll be back to having a full 6-year slate of payouts. I would think.
But no, you take the money's divided 6 ways instead of 5 ways, so the units go down.
I'll tell you what, only the NCAA can complicate something this bad. Seriously, this is way too complicated. 6 freaking years of tiered payouts.
Yeah.
It seems pretty stupid. to
And
me.
it's interesting. The other thing that was interesting in that going forward, I'm not sure how the women's tournament is gonna. I think they're gonna go to some similar type form.
They have to, don't they? I mean,
Yeah.
these are huge numbers.
Yeah, they're getting. I'm not sure how much of that $900 million deal is being attributed or allocated to the women. I mean, they talked at one point of selling the women separately from all the other conference championships, but I think they were probably smart to continue to bundle them because the women might have done pretty well, but what was left in the conference in the NCAA championship package, the men's baseball, women's baseball, Frozen Four, or women's softball, Frozen Four were kind of the primary what's left over. And I don't know that those would have driven the kind of numbers that they got by combining it with the women's package. The other thing to keep in mind is that that package and the men's basketball package all expire simultaneously now. Okay. And so that's going to be another one of those, seminal moments where they
be a big time. Like, you think there'll be a lot of people that'll be trying to get in on that because it's been kind of controlled in the past by Turner.
Yeah, it has, but it's interesting. Turner and those guys can do it because it's 4 weeks. They would have a hard time with all that other stuff because there's so much tonnage to it. I mean, the really ESPN is the only one who can handle that much load and do it right, I think. So, but that doesn't mean that ESPN wouldn't like to have the NCAA men's basketball tournament as well. So, and they could easily fit them both in. It's pretty clear that the NIT in the days of NIL is not going to be long for the world, if you ask me.
DOA,
yeah. You got people opting out of that because that's a problem.
Well, you're going to have players that don't want to get hurt.
Absolutely,
they don't see a big upside for even the competition itself. The extra practices, we're talking about basketball, way different than football. So I think it's going to become a more of a sideshow than anything else. Really quick, we have Ryan Willie's been a member with us for 3 months. Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate you being with us. His comment says, how is ESPN going to manage the NBA on and CFP on Christmas Day? Now, we talked about it little askew, but how will they handle it?
The NFL is on Christmas Day. The CFP will not be on Christmas Day.
Okay, so when do the CFP games start this year?
December 20th, I believe, is the first one.
Okay, correct. So would be like the 27th or something like that is when the first games.
No, I mean literally the schedule is football from December 20th till New Year's. It's every day. Football.
I think if they need to do something, ESPN can always stick the NBA on ABC to fulfill any obligations they might have in that time frame.
I didn't think anybody was watching NBA anymore. Let's get to a few more comments here. College Football Plus says, make the NIT the losers bracket of the NCAA tourney. In other words, make it a 2-loss and you're out. So it's a round robin and you have double elimination. That'd be awesome.
There was a bit of a controversy around the NIT. I don't know how much of that you can talk about, Bob. In terms of
in what way? I don't think I have any issues with talking about the NIT.
Okay, because this has to do with a network. That there were conferences and there were actual schools that made a decision to bow out of the NIT. And some of the reasons were because they thought that their rankings put them solidly in the main tournament, but yet for some reason they were left out and put into the NIT. And because the NIT is owned by the NCAA as well, to some looks like maybe they're trying to improve the value of the NIT for selling that as well. So when you have schools bowing out of this, thinking that they're being put down, is there anything to that? Is that valid, or is that just kind of people making connections where?
Look, everybody kind of wants to find the bad guy hiding behind the door, and I don't know that that's the case. I think I I didn't study a lot of these, this whole net ratings thing. And so I heard a lot of complaining about that, and that people weren't taken into consideration out of conference schedule, which was supposed to matter so much. And then, there's a lot of schools that had, it seemed, stronger out of conference schedules, and didn't get in, and then, the whole other thing is this whole idea of expansion, which I'm not really a fan of. I don't know that it needs to be significantly larger than it is. I do kind of like the play-in games. That's kind of cool. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that there's any grand scheme to prop up the NIT. I think it's a great place for schools that don't get in who want to go, but in this day and age,
right?
Give them a place to go. But in this day and age with NIL and the people's value, and the portals opening up here, and it opens up here again pretty soon, doesn't it?
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's
so,
all kind of crazy.
Some of this stuff, and that could ultimately at some point affect some of the lesser bowl games if they can't figure out some sort of they're gonna have to come up with an NIL deal for them. I mean, it used to be the case they got a goodie bag with some, video games and some headphones, and
that's right.
They're gonna have to come up with a lot more than that, or people are just gonna opt out. They're not gonna play.
A check for $10,000 or I don't show up. That's what I'm thinking. Hey, okay, we have two more questions for you, Bob, and then we'll get you out of here. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks for everybody who's watching us live right now. Bob comes on every few weeks for us, and we really, really appreciate it. We got two questions left. First one's from Owen, and then Wild Utes got our last question.
All right, Bob. Jack Swarbrick is no longer the AD at Notre Dame. The new gentleman has taken over. Have you had any dealings with him? Have you crossed any paths with him at your time in television? What are your thoughts about the gentleman? Is he a pragmatist?
I've known Pete for a number of years. We used to internationally syndicate the PGA Tour events, and he was head of the PGA, which is different than the PGA Tour. So they run the PGA Championship, things like that. I had an occasion to meet him at a couple President's Cups golf tournaments. And then we also had some dealings when he was president of NBC Sports. I think he's going to be great. I mean, he did a really good job at the PGA with they're the ones responsible for the Ryder Cup, PGA Championship. And he did, I think, a good job kind of kicking that organization in the butt and getting them, moving forward. He wasn't at NBC a ton of years, but it was pretty low key and in the background. I think some of the other guys might have had bigger personalities, but very level-headed. The only thing I could see that would get him out of NBC, because they've got such great events there, is, Notre Dame. He went to school there. He was a punter there. He, loves the place to his core. And so I think for Notre Dame, it was a really good situation for them to kind of not fall into, but have as an opportunity when, now that Jack's going to retire.
Very good. And you?
I'd just say this. Sorry. I don't think it necessarily is going to change the trajectory of the path that Notre Dame is on. I think as long as they can remain in the neighborhood dollar-wise between what they get from the ACC and what they get from NBC and what they get from the CFP, I think they're going to be just fine as an independent. You wonder, if that money somehow gets out of whack, then they're going to have to take a look at it. Or if somehow they can't get enough games, they're going to have to figure something out. So if that, as a kind of answer to your question, I think Notre Dame, even though you didn't ask that, I think they kind of stay on the same trajectory that they're on.
I was steering that way anyway, Bob.
All right.
We had a really quick throw in, and then I'm going to give it to Immaculate or Youth. From Mr. Monkey says, has anyone asked Bob if addition of the middle tier ACC quartet, that would be Louisville, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, and Pitt, would add value to the Big 12 pro rata? Not immediately, but maybe long term. What do you think about that, Bob? You can't answer that one.
Yeah, I can't go there on that one.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love it just to have the Pitt West Virginia game every year.
Right, yeah.
That's a tantalizing question.
I figured I'd ask. Mr. Monkey says, puts it out there, so I
It's a
figured I'd
great
throw it in.
question.
Nice try.
Hey, Bob. So last time we talked, this was definitely a few months ago. We talked about market, and you mentioned like based on your market size, there's still important factors in play there. But with the cord cutting increasing, how big a deal is market and like a DMA for like a large market size now and becoming based on more recent information? And like,
Right.
Is that even a significantly swing factor at all anymore? Or is it like a fan base size for valuing a team?
It's one element, you know, especially with the games on over-the-air television, you know, DMA size matters and ratings within those DMAs matter because it's the individual DMAs that end up ultimately making up the national rating. So I think that it still matters, but so do brands and so do matchups and so does history and so does rivalries and all those other things that make college football so great. It's kind of all of the above. For the streaming side of things, it's still important because these are also most of these games, whether it's on ESPN or it's on the news joint venture, most of those things are still going to be ad supported. So viewership numbers will matter. And so certainly markets that have or schools that have large DMAs and large followings in those big DMAs will be important.
All right, is that it, you?
Yep, that's it.
All right, Bob, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We hope you're doing well. If anything comes up you need from us, don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, we'll just keep you posted on stuff as it changes, and we'll talk again in a few weeks.
All right, guys. I enjoyed it as always. Take care.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Clap out again one more time for Bob Thompson, former president of Fox Sports, the creator of the Big Ten Network, and we're probably on, he only does 3 or 4 shows, and we're one of them. So I really appreciate him coming on here and spending this time with us. What do you guys think? What's your main takeaway outside of the fact that there's fun stuff we want to ask him that he can't answer?
I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. Every time you come, you learn more and you're better for it. And I just appreciate being able to have a conversation with someone like Bob. So
absolutely agree.
I think his final point was basically him saying GT is in, right?
We didn't do the drinking just in the first half of this show, have we?
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, everybody can wet their whistle. Don't drink too much because you might forget why you're here. Really quick, let me get to another super chat that we had. While Bob was talking, we try to keep him on topic there during that time. Kerry Go Knowles, one of our members, says, glad to have you back, Healthy Moen. Let him cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, very good. Moen, why don't you give everybody an update?
I got a scar where it looks like my throat's been slit.
It does, too.
That she said would hide behind my shirt collar, which unless I wear turtlenecks, that ain't happening. So I just got the drain poured out yesterday, and I just got a little gauze on that to keep anything that's coming out from getting everywhere, and go in on Friday to see if it's if I need to have the right one taken out or not. So hopefully not. So hopefully I'll just go with half a thyroid for the rest of my life.
You've had a lot of people asking about you, prayers, a lot of
goodwill. Much appreciated. I have something for him here.
When people ask why you drink so much whiskey, it's actually because you have a genetic condition that your body doesn't produce its own alcohol. Therefore, you're forced to take a supplement.
Where did you get that from? What is that from?
That was
Georgia
It's,
Tech.
it's from a whiskey short.
Oh, okay. All right.
One of the whiskey channels I follow.
Let's get to some comments, and then I know that Ute has a
Yes.
small.
Wait, actually, if you don't mind, let's just jump in real quick too. This is a present for Moan.
Okay,
We missed
go ahead.
Moan,
Go ahead.
and since he's back, we're super excited here. So, Moan, when you were gone here today, so we had some community members, lucky enough on social media, that helped us with some AI generated art. And your favorite thing in the world here is making Notre Dame bend the knee to the Big Ten. We all know it's going to happen sooner or later. So, anyway, here we go. There's a couple AI generated pictures. Want to see which one you like the most? Okay, so the first right here.
I
the
like
good
it.
leprechaun.
I like. Wait,
Like
if we could crop the Michigan guy
I was
out.
gonna say, it's like there's one thing that he's not gonna like about this one, and that's it.
So let's go
Could
to
we
the
maybe
next
change
here.
it to like a Delaware player? Like, just, it's an
Pretty
out of
close.
conference game.
There we
Just
go.
take an eraser to the blue, and you'll be close enough.
And the authors here, the producers of these, their Twitter handles up top left here. So thank you, Oakley, for this one. Let's move on to the next though. Here. All right. What do you think, Mon? What do you think about this one right here?
Oh,
Well, I like this. I like it. They're giving us money, right? This is a gift. This is a
And they're
dowry.
wanting money too.
Oh no! This is a dowry for being in our conference.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. Let's
this
jump to the
is-
next then.
Let's go here. Okay.
All right. What do you think this expansion crush made this one? I like this one.
Yeah, this isn't bad. I mean, this is Notre Dame with a Big Ten. Although I love AI. Sometimes it'll put naughty Dame.
Naughty Dame.
not to mention all the football players are in the stands, but
Yes, but we need to get a touchdown Jesus holding a Big Ten banner. Tell me you have that.
No, we don't have that one.
Oh,
We've got two
okay.
more though. We've got two more.
All
Okay,
right.
let's move on. I
Oh.
like this one a lot. Here, look at this, giving the Shamrock to, but it's a Michigan player.
Yeah, I don't like the look in his eye in that one. He's up to some serious shit.
but he's up to it against Michigan.
Yeah, he is, but it's like Ohio State's flanking him. I don't know. That leprechaun looks a little too devious to me.
Yeah, he does. He looks
I want
troublesome.
him. I want him more supplicant, less devious.
I think
All right,
OSU's
last
in on the
one.
joke there. That's what's going on there.
All right,
But-
Mo,
Ah.
last one.
That's the one.
If I could have Jack Swarbrick crying and crestfallen, I would get that as a back piece tattoo.
Well done, Rock and Rants. Well done.
I absolutely would.
Very, very creative.
All right, there you go, Moan.
Love
There
it.
you go.
Love
There's
it,
your
guys.
present.
You guys all
Thank
did
you.
awesome. Thank you.
So we've got some really, really good comments that we came through, and then we're gonna, we'll start generating some more conversation. Before we answer comments or questions, is there anything else you guys want to mention that we talked to Bob about, or that we didn't really do a top of the show opening the books because Bob showed up right on time? So we could also do that really quick. So let's just start with you, Ute. Anything from this weekend going into today in the news that you want to cover, or maybe something Bob said?
I'd like to loop back and have a conversation. Let's socialize the conversation here, guys. What if ESPN dumps the ACC in 2025? Bob couldn't go there. That's understandable. Makes sense. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I want to hear the community's thoughts. What happens then? Does the Big 12, does the SEC, do they take that share, market share, like the exposure share from the ACC contract? Does the ESPN just continue with the watered down ACC? I'm super curious on where ESPN goes with that. So what do you think about that, Immaculate?
Well, I'll preface that by saying, if there wasn't possibility to it, I kind of downplayed it, but that's his role. If there wasn't possibility to it, though, it wouldn't exist. That existed in that was created in 2021 by the commissioner of the ACC himself. And the only reason why that would needed to have been created at the time was because at that time, ESPN was supposed to make this decision then. Now, if they're going to decide to keep on going and everything's great and kumbaya, there's no reason for this to exist. So they were seriously contemplating dropping the ACC then. And that, that was post-COVID, right? All the numbers were down, everyone was hurting. So, devil's advocate, maybe things are so much better now that they're not so much in the mood for it. But they could come in at any time and say, "We're with you." This isn't like there's a day and you can only decide on that date. They have to decide by then. So I think it's real. I think that they're definitely probably going to want to renegotiate. I don't think that this means that they're done with the ACC. I think it'll mean this one, we're going to pull out on this one unless we renegotiate. And so they'll get something renegotiated. And I think that they're waiting to see who's leaving. Why would you renegotiate at a high when you're going to wait for a low? So when people say, why would ESPN help any ACC schools leave? Well, they're going to get content for a lot less when those schools leave and have better matchups in like the SEC with some schools as well.
Do you think they're going to have like the watered down ACC product still on the ESPN platform, like and getting as much exposure as they're currently getting? Like, do you think that exists?
Daniel Gygax says it right there. He says the new ACC would be a better version of the AAC.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
No, I mean, no. They're going to give up. They're going to give very little time for football. Most of that's all going to then go to the SEC and the Big 12. I think trying to balance this between the three conferences is probably going to be too much. But they'll still get plenty in basketball. And depending upon who comes in and what comes in, they're at least positioned to own that and run that should there be, a good solution for the ACC in the future. We've thrown around a few. I'm sure everyone knows what we're thinking there on that. But, I think, they'll still be there and they'll see what's going to become of it, especially if, say, Notre Dame goes in. That'll give them first look at Notre Dame, which could be worth a lot.
Yeah. What do you think, Moan?
Minute Florida State, Clemson get out of the ACC. The ACC. Here we go. Here's the ACC. Florida State, Clemson leave. That's it. That is 30% of the value of the ACC right there,
or more.
More?
Yeah.
Will it exist? Sure, but in the same way that there's still some burger chefs around. Remember Burger Chef? It was huge in the 50s. Now there's like 7 of them left across America.
Right.
So
Wait, what is that?
Burger Chef.
We don't have those out west.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was a
I don't
big.
know
I know what they are. I've seen them in New York.
Carl's Jr. ended up buying them out at one point.
Right.
But, yes, they used to be everywhere. Now there's sporadic, but people make pilgrimages to go
to the few
that remain.
Right.
But that's the thing. It was a huge thing at one time. It's still going to exist, but is it going to exist in the same way? No. It's going to be dismal. I mean, Mankill's probably right. They're probably going to focus on Olympic sports. You're probably not going to get much football. I mean, they'll have football, but I mean, don't look for anything to come out of there that's going to be like competing for championships. Not even Notre Dame. At that point, the question becomes: Notre Dame says, "Well, we want to join this academic elite thing, but our football schedule is going to be ass." It is, because I mean, if you're playing that many ACC teams, you're playing Wake Forest, Boston College, Georgia Tech.
You can't do it.
Or you could be in the Big Ten playing Michigan, Purdue, Ohio State, USC, Oregon. That's going to be the other death knell of the ACC. So I mean, the ACC is, the minute Florida State filed that lawsuit, that was number one.
Right.
When Jim Phillips signed that CFP deal that said we're just going to take it, that was number 2. That was signing his own death warrant. He's saying, okay, come pick what you want to pick, and I'll just try and gather the rest together, and maybe I'll sculpt it, and it'll make people think it's an actual athletic conference, but it'll really just be a glorified G6.
Does ESPN renegotiate that contract?
They have
Florida State.
They have to.
Lower, cheaper.
Yeah.
Or did they just? Can they walk away completely from it?
I don't think they would walk away. I think they would negotiate lower.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to a couple more super chats we got here. Sergeant Pickles for $4.99. Thank you very much, Pickles. You've been great to be on here with us tonight. He says, my contribution for a full-size poster to be made of that last image for Moen's background. Okay.
Well, good news, Sergeant
All right.
Pickles. This is a green screen. I can put whatever I want back here.
Well, there you go.
That
The next
was
one-
legitness. Yeah, it was.
The next one is from Kerry Go Knowles for $4.99. Says, when Florida State and Clemson leave the ACC, then Miami can finally win their first ACC championship.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, you know what I'd say to that? I'd
What?
say we leave that to Keith Jackson.
Okay.
On the phone, everybody. There's a penalty flag thrown, and I think it's against Miami.
Oh, Nelly.
Oh,
Oh, Nelly. Where's
This
the
new
O'Nelly
soundboard's
call?
tight.
Moen, do you have O'Nelly on there?
I don't because I can't find a Whoa Nelly without background music. So
We're
I'm
going to
gonna
have to find a O'Nelly. We're gonna
I've got to
okay.
find a Whoa Nelly and remove it from the background.
Okay,
music.
we'll put that out to the out to our audience. If somebody can get the Whoa Nelly from Keith Jackson to Moen, that'd be great because I'd love to have that as a sounder. Okay, so you'd asked his questions. Is there anything from the beginning that you wanted to bring up, Immaculate, that we sort of passed over because Bob was with us right away?
not really. I mean, of course, there's obviously the Washington State, Oregon State story with their deals, and it's interesting to see this combination of CW and the Pac-12 network. I don't know how much you guys have thought or looked into that. I'm quite fascinated. I think that could end up becoming a combination, whether CW acquires some of the Pac-12 network's assets, like the production studio, so that they can actually have a good production, because CW is pretty bad. But if that becomes a combination, like, what do you guys think of that as a value going forward, in terms of maybe another competitor or someone else that can come in and bring some money to conferences? Because if you give CW the quality of the Pac-12 network production studio, I think it's considerable. What do you think?
Mhm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it is something there, and like it seems like it's kind of tightening the bonds of that West Coast with the with the ACC one day, right? Like we talked about Oregon State and Wazoo to the ACC, but like, hey,
Could
the
be.
Pac-12
Could be.
network's already in the footprint with Cal, Stanford, like Wazoo, Oregon State's right there. I mean, like it seems like almost too good a match, like too good a fit, like love fit,
Yeah.
like how that could happen if there's a fall apart in the ACC, like we're predicting. That it's the CW would do that, go into partnership, maybe buy the Pac-12 network, and then just use that platform, because Pac-12 network content is great. Like it is, like it just didn't have distribution. The distribution was horrid, but like the personalities were great, the cameras were great. So yeah, there's something there for sure.
On the bottom end of that, there's a lot of people talking about the ACC, and I agree with you. That's a possibility. But even on the bottom end, which just makes it so great, is CBS Sports Network, who has a deal with the Mountain West. That supposedly is coming to an end here soon. It's just not going well. They acquired it. They renamed it. It's not doing well. Is that something that maybe the CW, with the Pac-12 network studio in hand, would maybe be willing to jump into if, say, Oregon State and Washington State are part of it? Not predicting that that's where they're going, but saying, like, there's top end is ACC, Big 12, but bottom end is, even with that, wouldn't that be a come up for them? Because they're not getting paid that much by the CBS deal. If CW is trying to break out big, would they be willing to maybe spend a little bit more and pay for that? What do you think?
I think that's, go ahead, Bomber.
I was just going to say, we can't forget money's drying up in this space. Yeah, it's very viewed and valuable. Live sports is number 2 to nothing except for maybe reality television. And I don't see where there's more money to subsidize something like that.
But if they're only paying like $4.5 million right now to Mountain West schools through that CBS deal,
you have a good point. There might be.
It could be like 7 or 8 by the CW, and that's like a stepping into the industry at a low pay, but starting to get your feet wet and prove yourselves.
But the CW, remember, they don't have dedicated resources countrywide. So they would have to go through and build or buy an
Yeah,
RSN,
the Pac-12 network. Yeah.
right? Now the Pac-12 network's only in what, 12 or 10?
Yeah, the distribution still.
CW
Ten-
is
yeah.
much more houses than the Pac-12 network.
Yeah, my point is that that's very complex. Could they be working on it? Yeah, but it might take 2 or 3 years to put together.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
But that might be
There
when
could be
it
some
actually
horse
comes
trading
together.
too. Like there could be some
absolutely.
horse trading
You're right.
with
Yeah,
like the Mountain
that's
West
absolutely right.
and
Yeah.
Oregon State and Wazoo horse trading, with the CW and stuff on
I
a longer
agree.
deal, higher dollar deal to bring in the Pac-12 network. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like there could be
Yeah.
all kind of structures there. I mean, it does make sense.
I agree with you. Moen, did you have anything you wanted to say before we got to? Let's get to Q&A with people in the
Sure.
lobby.
The member section. Coos has got a new video. I'm going to get that uploaded tomorrow. I promise. And then on Thursday, I have my video. I'm going to upload Moen Rants. I talk
Nice.
about a good friend of mine walking off into the sunset. I think everybody will want to tune into it. It's going to be very not safe for work. Do not listen to it at work.
Okay. All right.
Don't let the kids listen to that one, Moan. No kids.
Depends on where the kids are from.
Yeah, our videos are marked not safe for work anyway.
Yep.
So
It'll be marked.
it'll be wide open, and I know that there's a lot of emotion tied up into some of the stories we cover. So Moen's usually tapped into that, and we'll bring out good quality stuff. Also, those members only videos, people, are just amazing. If you're not a member already, you get access to them before the rest of the world does, and you're smarter than the guy next door because you know stuff that most people don't cover, and
you
that's
get-
all in Wild Ute University on
and you
Coos
get to
Corner
control it.
and Moen's. Go ahead.
Yeah, you get to control it too because Wild Ute University right now, there's a members only poll. You guys are going to pick the next Wild Ute University. So if you have not voted yet, members, get over to the members section, vote in that poll. We want you guys to determine the narrative that we're putting out there for you.
I haven't created any research until that poll's done. I'm just waiting on,
Whoa, throwing down stones. You're saying
I'm just
no
telling you,
word.
like, I could do a million different things, but that's the priority right there. That's going to be the next video. So I'm just
I
waiting
love
on
it. I
feedback.
love it.
Nice.
We got very, very involved people, and that's all I care about. Look at this. Coy out of
Coy.
nowhere, one of our members. Go ahead, Moen. What's going on here?
He gifted a membership to the community, and that membership went to Mr. Ed Weiner. Good to see you, Mr. Ed. Make sure you thank Coy for that gifted membership. Coy, we thank you for that membership. Give you a...
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
And thank you for paying it forward, Coy. We really
Thank you, Coy.
appreciate you doing that. And I would encourage Ed Weiner. You've been around enough. You know what it's like to receive a gift. Maybe you might want to give one out to somebody else. That's kind of what we try to encourage everybody. Really, all we care about is you guys having access to those videos before the rest of the world, to be honest, if we're being perfectly honest. As far as stories that I had in my mind going into this weekend, the only thing that stood out to me was the ACC is really struggling to control the narrative. I mean, desperately behind the 8 ball when it comes to the narrative in their lawsuits now with Florida State, and Clemson is coming in behind them. I just don't know how they can sort of turn that around. Now, obviously, a judge could come along and slap them upside the face, but it did not look good on Friday, and I didn't see anything in the last 3 days that made it look any better. So that was my only takeaway from this weekend. Do you guys, any one of you, want to make a mention of that piece?
And even if a judge does slap it down, this is such a bad situation. Like, what the heck's going to happen next? Okay, the judge says, no, Florida State, you've got to stay until 2036.
Right.
Like, seriously, how dysfunctional is this going to get? It's going to be nuts. Like, I don't even know how dysfunctional it's going to get. That just can't happen. If it does happen, that'd be crazy. Because
Anybody
it's just
else?
like you can't have unity, you can't have cohesiveness and stuff if like you don't have everybody all in. You clearly have everybody all out right now, so you got issues there. Even if a judge does rule favor the ACC.
You're right, but keep in mind, what do you call a lawyer who finishes at the bottom of his law class?
Rich.
Your Honor.
That was funny. Let's see here. Let's get to a comment before I just lose control of my laughing stick right there. The Net Dragon, I believe he might be new to the community. Nice to have you here, Net Dragon. Invite you to join us at this College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia show. Thank you very much for being here. He says, let's be honest about UConn. They aren't leaving the Big East. It's much more like UConn would bitch and make the Big East invest to get Division I football teams. What do you guys think about that?
No, they're going to have a lot of stroke if they keep doing this like they're doing in the tournament. They're going to have stroke.
Yeah, but you got to take their football with, and football is most of the value. So as much stroke as you have in basketball, unless that provably and remarkably increases in value, we're seeing it start to go up right now, like being real on that. But how much, I don't know. So it's like they're coming in and smacking everyone around, but what's that actually in terms of value? Because their football, if their football could just be good, I think that UConn would be in.
I'll tell you the NCAA credit value if they go on another championship run is $12 million.
Just for them.
For them.
Okay.
Well, I mean, for the whole Big East to get distributed through the whole Big East.
Right.
They're basically yielding $12 million worth of value to win a championship in NCAA credits. And then on top of that, there's the basketball viewership your media companies are going to pay for. But we're not sniffing, $30 million. UConn, get your football program if you want to get into, the A3, A4 here. The Big East, they're not going to be losing UConn. They have nowhere else to go.
It's interesting you say that. They did the exact opposite at the exact inflection point in history when the UConn, when the Big East blew up and UConn had a choice where they were going to put their money. They starved their football program to build up their basketball program, which is now, if not the best in the top 3 in the nation in basketball. They did the exact opposite that Utah did, putting their money into football and sort of starved the basketball. And I think those two schools, if you put them up next to each other, the inflection point of them making the decision, we're going to go basketball instead of football. They were competitive in the Big East. They went to the New Year's Six Bowls when they were playing in the Big East in football. It all blew up when that conference ceased to exist. So, I just think it's really interesting to track some of the historicals there. That inflection point, make a decision, football or basketball, and the other one's going to die on the vine.
And they're nuking losses. I mean, UConn's not a profitable athletic program, despite the championship. I mean, that's what happens when you don't have football revenues coming in at a large scale. It just is what it is. It's hard to survive. They nuke a lot of money in basketball, and they get a lot of institutional support at UConn. But Big East is a great place for them. They're going to keep winning titles. So,
let's see here. Janie Thornton, one of our members, says the ACC said they can buy their gores. They could buy their gore back. They could buy their licensing back for their own video. Their licensing for broadcasting. Buy it back from ESPN, and they wouldn't be tied to it. And then she says they would just have to write a very large check to leave. Immaculate, you want
to write that $500 million check?
Yeah, I'd say there's 0% chance the ACC stays together as it is right now. This isn't about holding them in. This isn't no one actually has that goal in mind, in my opinion. It's all about what the price is going to be. So they're all maneuvering for that. I don't think any of these court cases, except for maybe a few of the motions, I don't think any of it ever reaches a conclusion. I think it's positioning. Even the judge talked about that, how he thinks it needs to get figured out outside of court. He knows it needs to be settled. They know it needs to be settled, but they're kind of using that court for positioning to have the most value to get out of that. The ACC wants more money to get out, and these schools want to pay less. So we'll see how that ends up, but it's not staying together as it is now. That's just untenable.
Anybody else?
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I just think a response to that, I think it's a great question, Jamie. So really, let's talk about what does that mean? Like if FSU and Clemson were to lose their lawsuits, what's that actually mean? We can say, okay, they can lose the lawsuits, they lose the lawsuit, but really, what does that mean for them staying in the conference or not? Like, do they actually have the ability to buy out the gore? Isn't that really what the lawsuits are kind of about, to determine if they even have the ability? Like, what happens? Like, really,
if they lose, you're talking about Florida State, right? Just
talking about both of them. Florida
Okay.
State and Clemson suits.
I don't think Clemson has as much leverage. Florida State's already gone out and said we're willing to go and buy our media rights back from you. Well, that's why they were talking about the private equity stuff. I think they're opening the door. They would settle for a smaller amount so they're not headaches, but they're gone. Florida State is out of the ACC. And
But
the ACC people
the
are
lawsuits
expecting them
actually
stay
to make the justification that you can buy out of the gore. Right now, that is
no. Bob
under.
Thompson actually said the rights are there to be bought. You don't have to. They don't have to fight for the right to buy their rights back.
They would
It's
have
in
to
the
grant
contract.
a settlement, correct?
Well,
Settlement.
They would have to settle on amount, but it's not an if, it's a when.
What if the ACC just doesn't want to settle?
Well, I think it's a commodity. Your TV rights are a commodity. You
That's
can
what's-
write a
yeah.
check and buy them back.
There's a price. There's a price to getting out already. It's
already
but
set.
it's largely set by the ACC. It's very high.
It's at 572 million or
so-
something like that.
The threat is that by going through these proceedings, that'll get wiped out to zero, because if the court says that any one of these deals, these contracts, is nullified, voided, they don't then come in and say, now here's the price to get out. It means it's zero. So here's the risk factor of what's the chance of them winning. How much are we willing to come down to settle so that we don't find that out? Are you saying to yourselves 100% chance we beat Florida State in this? Then yeah, they're probably not going to settle. I don't think it's a 0% chance. I don't think they think it's a 0% chance. And I think that very first hearing that we finally got proves that it's not a 0% chance the way the judge was coming after them. So I think that it's really just kind of positioning and feeling out to where they finally get to a price that they both agree upon. So the threat is that Florida State gets out for zero through the case.
Well, and Doug Rohan said last week that they have no incentive to settle. Florida State has no incentive to settle.
Unless the price is right, and they're
They-
because there's a
but
risk
that's
they'll
on their
lose.
terms. That's on their terms.
Sure, but there's a risk
They
they'll
wanna-
lose.
There is a risk, but they want to take it all the way to the end, is all I was trying to get to. Even if they took it to
Maybe,
the end and lost, they still would be winning because they already have, now all this has been exposed. They have other avenues for other lawsuits. Right now they're limited because they don't have access to all the information. 16 of 160 pages.
I understand that, and that's why in their very first filing they put in that they would like retroactively. It stated that they then delivered, so that way they could take this out longer and still use like 2024 as their period when they put in that they were leaving, because that has aspects to the price as well.
Right.
But I mean, I also honestly think also they don't want this to drag out either. I mean, it costs, like their court costs. They got lawyer fees. They're facing this in two different locations, so you got to pay lawyers to travel, and then also they're working two cases for you, double the cost there. This is going to be tallying up lawyer fees like crazy, and that's for the ACC too, especially if, say, North Carolina jumps in and Miami jumps in. Now you've got 8 locations possibly. I mean, these costs are going to start to tally up very quickly.
You need two parties to settle, though, right? It's a
That's
two-party
right.
transaction, and so
Yes.
if the ACC doesn't choose to settle, they can go
That's
back
right.
to court to try to get them to settle. But I'm telling you guys that the ACC still has control if they lose a lawsuit. I don't think it's going to happen like that, but I think that fundamentally the ACC would still own the grant of rights and have the rights of the schools and stuff if they sued them and tried to unbind yourself.
Well, if Florida State wins, they don't. They're looking to
What if
have
they
the gore
lost? If
avoided.
they lost and Clemson lost too, and they
Yeah, he's
lost,
saying
Oh, well,
they
then
lost.
they're
Yeah, it was just it's a
not-
hypothetical. He's saying if this happens, then this happens. So
Then it's that high price to leave. Like you're basically paying $572 million to get out if ACC wins.
let's move on to some more super chats. This one's from Ryan Willie, again, one of our members. Thank you very much, Ryan. With ESPN joining the ACC in court, how can they drop the ACC now?
What a good question. Nice question, Evil Badger.
Who wants to answer that?
What do you think?
I'll answer it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because they're joining the ACC with Florida State and Clemson in it.
Mm-hmm.
The minute that it's like dating a supermodel, and then the minute she hits the wall, it's
Well,
you're all in on the supermodel until she burns in a horrific accident.
That sounds fun.
we haven't seen ESPN come in and file a brief in support of the ACC against Clemson. They did
Not
it
yet.
at FSU with a single
Yeah.
school. So we don't know. Clemson might be the tipping point. Then again, it might be UNC's the tipping point. We don't know. But if ESPN loses their motion to seal, which is going on right now, and that did not look good. The judge went after that hard. If they lose that, I think they're done. I think that they're going to be pushing hard. Like, you need to settle now because all of this is going to come out. Whether or not they're trade secrets or not, whether they're that valuable, they're at least presenting that they are. And if that's about to all come out, like you just said, 16 pages of how many?
160.
That's what ESPN is protecting. If they lose their motion to seal, I would expect them to push the ACC or, as you're saying, tell them, threaten them, hey, any day we could decide that we're not going to re-up in 2027. Don't make us make that choice right now. Settle. ACC settling the moment that gets said to them.
Kerry Go Knowles, another super chat, $1.99, says the ACC says a lot of
Good
things that are
timing.
stupid. Thank you very much, Kerry. You're exactly right. They do a lot of things and say things that are stupid. And one thing we want to be very clear, we're only talking about the Mackinac County, North Carolina lawsuit. There's still all the lawsuits in Florida that are going on. So we're a long way from this Florida State Clemson ACC mess to be finished. A lot
You know
of
where
bad
the
press
ACC tournament
cycles.
credits are going? Legal fees.
Yeah, right now they are. That's fact.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to some earlier comments that we've had. Boy, this has been, I cannot believe we're almost an hour and a half already. Julian Smith, sorry, it's taken me a while to get to some of these, everybody. Just really quick so you know, feel free to leave a comment. I try to tag them. Also, my boys, tag them for me. Hopefully we're picking good ones. But we do defer to member College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia members. We defer to those comments first, and then we go along and if you become a member, we really try to do a lot of the stuff for you as members, and this is one way to do it. Anybody can leave a comment, though, and then super chats, obviously, we prefer. All right, somebody took away my comment. Julian Smith says, in my opinion, if North Carolina joined the Southeastern Conference, imagine an SEC schedule including South Carolina at Tennessee, Georgia at home. What do you guys think about that?
Sounds like a fit.
I don't see a reason why that wouldn't be good myself. I would
If we
watch
get
that.
Florida State, I'm all for it.
There you go. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina is going to lose a lot of football games if they join the SEC. I just look at that.
Cashing
I
a
mean,
lot
that's
of
just-
checks.
Or they might win. I mean, once they're part of the SEC, how much does their status as a recruiter now get improved?
I think it goes up. Yeah.
I mean, North Carolina could become a power. We don't know. I mean, they got the money and the ability to do it if they want to, and maybe they'll actually fill their stadium with fans then.
Purple Freak, a comment says, why is Fox not more insistent on getting a piece of the CFP? We asked that ourselves when it first came out. The NFL splitting the playoffs has led to more media dollars. Yeah, I still don't understand it. You mentioned it to Bob, the low amount for this college football playoff negotiation. I don't know that we're ever going to find out. Moen has the answer. He knows why the dollar amount was so low. Moen, tell him.
Well,
Here comes the money.
there is no money left. They have spent tons of money on the NFL, tons of money on original programming that has flopped, and you're going to see a lot more cheap reality television and
Hey,
sports that
cheap?
they've.
Come on,
Cheap,
reality
yes.
television rocks.
Cheap.
I don't know what you're
Cheap.
talking about.
It's cheap. It's
Where's
drivel.
Jen at? We need
Could I-
some Vanderpump Rules.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
throw a conspiracy theory at that one?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So we were thinking $2.1 billion is what the projection was supposed to be. Turns out to be 1.3. And a very specific and very important detail of that is that ESPN can sub-license at their own whim to whomever they freaking want. And so if you're Fox and you're sitting there going, well, we could try to compete against them and bid, but why? We can just pay them. They pay less. And then we pay ESPN less for it. And oh, by the way, we're friends now. We have this cool little app we're working on together. I think that I I think there's a little bit of collusion going on, in my opinion. That
So do I,
Fox,
Immaculate.
Collusion? What?
Fox is just going to pay
What?
ESPN. You're going to see some of those games on Fox.
Okay, Moen, we need it. Yeah, we need something, Moen, right now. We need a graphic that flashes across saying this is his opinion
Conclusion.
only. Now,
By
nobody's
the
coming
way,
at me about collusion.
my opinion.
I don't know
All
who
mine.
came up with Spulu, but Spulu is a terrible name. They should call it the Ocho.
The
The
Ocho.
Ocho.
Lord.
Listen, you've got 8 different channels in there. The Ocho. It just makes sense.
Immaculate, 100%, man. I was going to say the same exact thing right after you. It seems like collusion
I
central.
need a
It really
video
does.
that pops up.
Yep. You know,
How else can you explain it? Like if they're going to sub-license
Just my
games to
opinion.
Fox, and they
But
both
watch.
got a discount, and like Immaculate to even spin that a little further and stuff. I mean, like you have 2 parties in that transaction in the Power 2 that have big contracts with these players, right? So they're not going to squawk too much because they're going to piss off ESPN and Fox. And so, like you, even on the antitrust squawking and everything, like it's basically silenced because of the relationships. It's weird, man. It's weird. It is. There's collusion, man.
I mean, maybe they don't just sub-license to Fox. Maybe they cover their butt, let NBC have one, whatever. But I think it's it's entirely possible that we could just see ESPN and Fox showcasing these games in this first year, and no one will say a word about it. They'll be like, "Oh, well, this makes sense. It's on ESPN and Fox, duh." Okay, we'll see.
All right. Are we done with collusion?
Yep.
Can we move
Yep.
on?
Good
We
question.
can move. We can move.
All
Take
right.
off your hats. We're
Thank
good to
you,
go.
Purple
No more
Purple
tinfoil.
Freak. Yeah, tinfoil hat time. All right, let's go to the next one. C. John says, assuming there's an increase in ACC versus X university lawsuits, would it be beneficial for ESPN to mediate ACC to SEC movement, meaning FSU, Clemson, whoever moves directly over to the SEC contract? And now, I thought when it first came up, this has been now a year and a half ago when this first came up, the idea that Florida State could just swap hats basically from one weekend to the next. There was some legal reason why that
It's
couldn't
called
happen.
market. It's called market allocation. You can't
Okay.
allocate from one market to another to eliminate competition.
Okay. All right. And that's against the law?
It's against the law.
Okay.
It's like Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme dividing up where they're going to sell their donuts.
And once
Okay.
FSU goes to the Big Ten, that's out the window. Right?
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
it's
Yeah,
the
once-
biggest
if-
brand.
If
Because it
Big
goes
Ten
to
gets
Fox.
Florida State, they will just absolutely allow them to gut the ACC. I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Really-
Like, what if they allow that move to the Big Ten, they can do whatever the hell they want with all the rest.
So it's almost like they need to allow that move to actually.
When people
Right.
say, "Why are they allowing it to happen?" Well,
So like
There might
so
be
the
a
SEC is
reason.
waiting on
No
the
one's
Big
been
Ten
on
to
it.
block Florida State.
you know,
I mean, that's
Maybe.
basically what you're saying.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying that's a possibility. And Moen's been on this with the market allocation talk.
I mean, if
I
it's-
haven't
if
heard
that's
from
the
anybody
case,
else. It's just
Then like that
that's
opens
where I
up.
learned
Yeah,
it
that
from,
opens
so.
up the ACC from
Yeah.
for legal
I
reasons.
mean, when
and,
you
like,
take
it's
your
all-
legal risk from considerable to 0%, which is allowing this one move in a market area that you're already pretty dense in. I mean, you know, it's a big brand, and you're letting Big Ten come down there, but you're still surrounded with SEC schools.
Moen, I think you're onto something there.
Anybody
I
else?
think you're onto something.
I'm not
Well-
saying. I'm just saying.
I got a question from Twitter, not on here, but somebody's asking they can't find the Georgia Tech video. I don't
It's
have
on
the
there.
time to
Yeah,
really
check it
look.
out.
It's public. Look under live.
It's another
Let me
conspiracy.
Yeah, it's under the live area,
Why is
Oh,
it not live?
yeah,
not
we
under
did
the
it.
short
Because it was a
videos,
live
'cause we did a live
stream.
show.
We
on
did it live.
Okay, I don't see. I don't see the link. Do we have a day? When was that?
I
Trying
checked
to put it
2 weeks
back.
ago.
Right here. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, it's a live video that was 2 weeks ago. Yep, streamed 2 weeks ago. So I
Yeah,
will
and,
answer
and
that in
speaking of
Twitter.
that, asking the community if you like the live shows more than the short videos, let us know too, because we can
Right.
change those up. We're just trying to support y'all, give you the best content. So
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
you answering that. I'll make sure they get that on Twitter. All right, next question here. Jamie Thornton says Georgia Tech should pay Immaculate as a recruiter. Nobody does a better job in this country. Well, there you go. Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech.
George,
I love it.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not
Immaculate.
I'm not even like calling that like it's a sure thing. I'm just saying no one was thinking about it, and now everyone's talking about it. So hey,
There is definitely nationwide chatter, and that is all you, Immaculate. Nice job.
Let's get to another super chat right here. Cleveland Rocks for $10. Another one of our members says, "Help keeping the lights on. Great show. Thank you very much."
Thank you, Cleveland Rocks.
I really, really appreciate it. And just so everybody knows, I got a response back from the post on Twitter, and now they were able to find the video. I do have a question, Moen. Can we put all of the university ones, whether it's a live show or a short, in its own playlist?
They should be in their own playlist. If you're a member, you'll be able to view them all. If you're not a member, unfortunately, you won't be able to view the public ones. So
okay, I thought where there's a membership row. Can we just have a Utah? I can
put it. I can put it on the front page. I can put it on the front page where we just put playlists on the front page.
Make it easier for people to find it. I'm just getting a lot of people requesting, how do you get there? How do you navigate to that page? Anyway, thank you very much, Cleveland Rocks. We really appreciate it. I want to tip my hat to Moen for organizing all this stuff, people. If you didn't know, I'm telling you again now, Moen is the engine that keeps us on the tracks. The rest of us do a lot of heavy lifting, but Moen is the one that does all the engineering, and we really, really appreciate it. And I would encourage everybody to tip their hat to him. All right, another comment here from Mr. Ed Wayner. Can y'all ask Doug Rohan if these ACC versus schools lawsuits combine and or drag on, can a judge mandate mediation, or does the impasse have to happen? So I asked him, I have a part answer to this, and then yes, I could follow up with Doug on the second part. The first part is, if right now we have two different legal jurisdictions, Florida and North Carolina, if those state charges continue to go up and there's no resolution, they get to the federal level, there is a chance that the next time that these lawsuits are actually settled is in the United States Supreme Court. That's how high this could go if Immaculate says they want to continue to spend the money. But that's the tip of the spear. That's the very last place everything you end up is federal court and the U.S. Supreme Court. It's pretty crazy. It's that important. Did anybody else want to add something to that?
No, I think you handled that.
All right, excellent. The Net Dragon says, I want to see the contract open because I think it'll be a lot more of an exposure for ESPN than ACC. I don't like how ESPN does things. I don't think anybody likes the way ESPN does things.
They're sketchy, aren't they?
They're
ESPN
sketchy.
doing stuff. Seriously,
like that,
you like the trade secret? Yeah, we've got an opt-in clause like deep in this contract that's a trade secret. Like seriously, that's the stuff. Come on.
It's one thing to have that too, but when your entire kind of presentation and sales of the power of the ACC is that you've got this deal until 36, and you're presented like that's like a surefire thing, when in reality that you could come along and pull the carpet out from underneath it at these different points. To me, it's just false presentation to the public, which I guess they can do legally, but it's just slimy. That's everything that we came to understand and know about the ACC was wrong. Just wrong. And supposedly maybe some of the presidents knew, but they were sealed to talk about it. Like the board of trustees didn't even know. That to me, I mean, that's kind of shady business. And we're talking about public entities here.
I can't believe that happened. We're talking about border regions, not knowing that there's an opt-in clause.
Yeah.
That's shocking. That's just complete incompetence, and you got to read the fine print. What did ESPN have a big ESPN logo over the opt-in clause area or something? I don't know how you missed that.
I think these conferences basically turned their lives over to these carriers. I don't think they did a lot of negotiating. I honestly think they needed to have a partner. Who's in control in that relationship? Is it the conference or is it ESPN and Fox? So in my opinion, I think they were basically taking what was being given to them. Bob, I'll try to write that down and ask him a question in the future, because there is an outstanding question in my mind. Is we know how he feels about the realignment and how it's driven not by the media companies but by the conferences. But there's this constant friction of you have games you need to put out. Somebody's got to broadcast them. And who really is in control of that relationship? And I don't know that that ever gets settled. I don't think it could ever be good for the conferences. College Football Plus says his knee isn't touching the ground. It's a fake. He's talking about that
Pull up
picture.
that yeah, pull up that picture.
Which
again.
one
Let's
is
just
it?
see that.
Let's see.
I think
Added
it's the
to
last one right
stage.
there.
Is it
Is
this
he
one?
is he touching?
Let me get the quote
He's
out of there.
touching on
Hang
this one. It was a previous one he wasn't touching.
That one's touching. Let me go back to
That one.
is it this one.
That one. He's not touching.
I don't know. There's shade. I can see the white. I don't know.
Let's get the instant replay in here.
I don't know. I don't know.
He's touching. He's touching.
I don't think so. Actually,
I think
there's
just a little bit that
There's
I don't
a little
think
bit of
it is.
white. There's a little bit of white.
That second guy's my favorite though.
All right, hang on. Let me bring this
It
up.
sounds
Let's
like we're
go
2
for
and 2. I think we need a chat
It's so
poll for
bad.
this.
Is he?
Let's
Is his
send it
knee
to the
touching?
network.
All right, go ahead.
You gotta
Ask
send
him
this
right
to
now.
chat.
Is his knee touching? That's what we want to know.
'Cause
We'll
this
take
is
that
two-
off there.
two
No,
versus
everybody can
two.
see it. I don't think he's touching.
Neither do I. And these
I
guys
think
he
there's
is, so
shade.
Chat's got to settle this.
His knee is definitely touching. I don't know
No,
what
it
you guys are
isn't.
talking
No,
No.
it isn't. No.
No. You guys are making me side with Bomber. Like this never. Can't believe this is happening over an AI picture.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's touching. So, did we get a poll out there, Moen?
Hold on.
Okay,
Mhm.
everybody vote. There we
Send
go.
it.
Is his knee touching?
This is ridiculous.
So we have a little of a diversion in our story and question and answer tonight. But I don't think it is. I think he's got the knee off.
We're winning.
Are we?
Yes.
Let me see.
Oh,
I can never
it's getting
see.
close. I
Oh
shouldn't
my
have said
gosh.
anything.
That's all right. All
You
right.
guys screwed us.
You guys tell us. And was that like a minute, Moen?
We give it a few minutes here. We gotta get more votes in.
All right. Well, we're just gonna keep going. I'll leave that picture up.
I'll give you the high sign when I get back.
Okay, that'd be
I'm gonna
great.
go
He's
get a
going to
Coke
get it.
Zero.
Coke Zero.
And then I will be back
Okay.
with the answer.
It's
All right, that's
literally
fine.
like 50-50 right now.
I'll leave it up there right now. Okay.
Can we
Let's
get to
get to-
comments too with that in the background?
I'm trying.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm doing it right now. Okay.
You have to vote. You have to take your vote.
Okay. Joe
Gotta go
Tucker, Florida State, says ESPN can mandate mediation. There you go. You had that question earlier. Joe
Mhm.
Tucker says ESPN can mandate mediation. I guess my follow up to that would be,
Can they?
Joe, how can they? They're not a
They're not-
judge. How can they
and-
mandate anything?
And they're not even in the complaint, or they're not the plaintiff, they're not the defendant. All they are is they filed a brief in support of one. They're not
Joe,
party
I
to
don't
this.
know. Where are you getting that? Can you give us a resource? Like, did Doug Rohan actually say that? Or did Danielle Kelly say that? Mitt Winter? I'm just looking for somebody that gives us reference, because I don't think ESPN can mandate anything
Mm.
by themselves.
Because they don't even have a deal directly with Florida State.
Right. It's all through the conference.
Mhm.
I don't know. You might
mean,
be right.
Maybe
I
he
just- I'm
means
looking
they
for a
can
resource.
mandate the ACC has to do that via their.
That's what I'm saying. We need context.
Maybe, I don't know.
What is he saying here? So, Joe, if you could clear that up for us, I'd appreciate it.
He did answer. It's just,
Oh, he did? Oh,
If you look second
let me
to last.
Let's see. Where?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wait. I wasn't down far enough. Sorry.
I started.
Ryan Willie. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. Joe Tucker says the judge can't mandate mediation, but they can tell the ACC what to do or drop the contract. Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that very
He's
much.
saying they have the leverage to make it happen.
Okay. All
And I
right.
agree with that.
Let's see here. Next one is Ryan Willie says, here's a potential shocking move, Florida State and UNC to the Big Ten. What do we think about that?
That's a drop the micer right there. Once you get Florida State and UNC, those are the ones that everybody wants that side of Notre Dame, who's already bending the knee, as you can see to the right.
Right.
Really, these FSU and UNC to the big would be a huge win for the conference. Then Notre Dame would follow close behind.
Agreed. All right, Immaculate, do you have any questions? Oh, Immaculate. Yeah, there you are.
I mean,
Okay.
that would probably be the most desired outcome for the presidents of the conference.
North Carolina.
North Carolina and Florida State would be probably any move out east that does not include Notre Dame. I think that would probably be their most desired and arguably the highest value for the conference. I'm not just talking football.
Right.
I'm talking overall school research, everything involved, getting TVs networks to agree to it. I think that would probably be the top one. But I also think the SEC is not going to sit back and watch that happen.
Anybody else?
Well, the results are in.
Okay, and
52% believe the knee is not touching.
yes, there we
Are
go.
you kidding me?
There we
47%
go.
Large chat.
There we go. Look at
That
that.
is such. How? What?
That is totally not touching.
3-2.
I'm telling you,
Vote carries.
That's a close margin.
it is a close margin, and I'm just glad I'm right. Okay, so we're moving right along here. That's a wonderful, wonderful poll. We're gonna need to. Can we put that on Twitter? Can you put that on Twitter and ask Twitter?
It's already on Twitter. I'll repost it for sure.
Yeah,
but
repost just that one, and ask is the
Got
knee
it.
touching or not.
Winner. Oh yeah,
All
we'll
right.
do that. That's a great idea.
All
Make
right.
sure you tag the Four Horsemen podcast. in
Yeah.
it.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
those guys gonna
In fact, those
Yep.
guys told me they were going to come on in a couple weeks, and I need to follow up with them for a Four Horsemen podcast. So
If Dylan
I will
sees
do
this,
that.
he's never coming back again.
Yeah, he's not coming on, Bomber.
I
He's
like.
never.
He'll
coming
come
back.
for me.
If
All
he
right, here we
sees
go.
this episode, don't show him this episode.
I don't care. Why does he care what we say about
I'm
anything?
just joking.
Dude,
No,
you
no
got the
big deal.
leprechaun bending the knee, man.
Well, he
Yeah.
can come up with another one saying they aren't. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, there was a comment here from. Give me 1 second. So, Shonsky and I are going to be getting together for lunch. So we're going to lunch on Thursday. So send me a text in the morning or call me, Shonsky.
Can we
and
make
we'll
a
do
bet
that.
on that?
Sure.
How many times Shonsky tells you during that lunch that the Big Ten sucks?
Okay, I guess.
Did
He's
you
a
add to that,
BYU
Moen?
fan.
What's
No,
the
I know.
over under?
We love Shonsky, but man,
Over
he's-
under.
Okay.
I'd
Yeah,
say
yeah,
the
yeah.
over under is 50.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would
50
agree.
times. Oh my
Shonsky,
God.
he's one of our
He's 50.
favorites. When
That
he
won't
comes
give us.
on.
That won't give us time to eat. That's crazy.
So he's
All
gonna
right,
be like,
Shonsky. I guess it's up to you to determine how that goes. Jamie Thornton says Georgia Tech, SMU, Cal, and Stanford to the big using the same Mafia Georgia Tech drink. All right, Jamie Thornton's talk about drop the mic. There you go. Georgia Tech, SMU, Cal, and Stanford to the Big Ten.
Looks sexy right there. Georgia Tech, SMU, Cal, and Stanford.
I'm sorry if SMU joined the Big Ten.
Yeah,
Ohio
I'm like-
State needs to immediately leave the Big Ten.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, I think.
Like
so.
I'm going to be driving to Chicago. Like the minute that happens, I'm in the car to Chicago.
You know, I
they're
asked
gonna-
Florida State people how they felt when SMU got added to the ACC, and they felt the exact same way. Get me out of here. And that was in the summer. That wasn't after they got stiffed for the CFP. They wanted out the minute SMU got in. It's pretty crazy. Moff Prof, one of our members, says, "Peace, brothers." That was from earlier. Thank you very much, Moff Prof. Steve High Florida says, "What financial liabilities does the Pac-12 still have?" He mentions Comcast, Holiday Bowl, employee termination lawsuits. Do we know? Is there an overarching list? I've never seen a list.
No, and he asked that. It was a really good question. He asked that with Greg too, and best I could come up with while we were talking in chat about it was that's probably all in the agreements because they just made that final agreement within the Pac-12, right?
Right.
How much it's going to be? I don't think you could do that if you didn't have any of this. What Steve's talking about figured out,
Right.
like you just couldn't. I mean, you can't hand money to those guys leaving without figuring out first what goes to your debts. So I would have to think, Steve, that that's taken care of. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the ghost of Larry Scott and George K.
Right.
looms,
Large.
and
So that's a liability
absolutely.
too, whatever that buyout was for George Kliavkoff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
that's
lot.
true.
Nobody knows the exact ballpark dollar amount, but like, is that when you're adding up the NCAA credits, the value of the Pac-12 network? I don't really know how many assets versus liabilities the conference even has. They're not as rich as we think.
We're going to find out here soon, I think. Those
And
numbers will come out.
only seeing one side of the ledger here.
Right.
So,
Right.
I guarantee you, Larry Scott bought a lot of caviar, man.
Yeah, he did some really bad stuff. Expedition Greg, one of our members, says FSU and Miami big bound. So he's making his prediction there.
Okay.
Then to follow that up, Jamie Thornton says oil money, the big, and Mowing After Dark can finally get into Texas with SMU.
I'd rather
There you-
not get in Texas.
And then Illini Ted says SMU, the conference killers.
So
So-
true.
Okay, I think we can get off SMU right now. How about this from Replica? Another one of our members says ESPN is posturing until a decision is made on whether the contract will be sealed. Once the judge makes that decision, I think ESPN is going to let the ACC drown. Does somebody want to clarify what that means? It will be sealed or not sealed?
That's what their motion to seal is all about. There's the motion to dismiss, and then there's a motion to seal. And the motion to seal is basically to seal all documents, all testimony, everything that has to do with anything that ESPN labeled a trade secret. That's what they're trying to seal so that none of us can see it, basically. They don't want their trade secrets to be out there in public so that their competition can see it, which I think it also has to do with how people perceive them. But that's what it's about. They're just trying to keep their secrets safe.
All right, very good. Just so everybody knows, we're in countdown. We're inside 15 minutes for our show tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Turn on your notifications so you know when our shows are going and when we're doing tweets and putting information out. We got a luchador has just entered the room. What's going on there, Mr. Moen?
It's the last 15 minutes. I figured I'd wear the mask.
Okay, all right.
I
So
spent $5 on this mask. I'm gonna
Gotta get it.
$5
Dang
your
good,
money's
Moen.
worth. Jeff Fuller's in the house saying, great to
Up,
see
Jeff?
Moen back. There you
Thank
go.
you.
Jeff came in and gave us some time on Friday. We appreciate him doing that.
Mhm.
Daniel Gygax, another one of our members, says Marshall football gets more people to games than SMU. Appalachian
lying.
State. Appalachian State. Yeah. Geez, isn't for your school to be a punchline. I don't know. Sergeant Pickles says OSU and WSU will try to SMU their way into the Big 12. That is, I actually thought 6 months ago that could happen.
Yeah,
When
you
you-
did think that. That's
I
right.
did.
Talking
see how
about your
rich they
school
are,
when
though.
your school becomes a verb for buying your way into things. You SMU something.
Oh my hell, that is
Most-
brutal.
Moan,
You
you look,
SM
that looks so good on you.
Let's see here. Joey Z, another one of our members, says, with that case presented in Leon County, the judge would either award a $572 million or zero award. If either is afraid of those outcomes, they should settle. That Leon County lawsuit is the one that's in Florida, just so everybody knows. Not the Mackinac or whatever it was county one in
Yeah, he's not going to come in
North
and like
Carolina.
pick a number in between.
Yeah.
That would have to happen in mediation or settlement.
Right. Numbskull News. Good to see you here, Numbskull. He says, great, going live later. Oh, everybody, look out for Numbskull News. Give him a watch. He's got a great show. And Numbskull, we're glad you're here. Thank you very much for coming in and letting people know. Look him up on Twitter. And, find his show on YouTube. It's very entertaining.
Hey,
Encourage everybody to go
Numbskull,
see that.
UNC has value, my friend. UNC has value.
Joe Tucker says the Clemson lawsuit brings up the cost to leave other conferences. What's he saying there?
I think he's saying that it brings up how much it costs to leave other conferences versus the ACC.
Yeah. The exit fee on the ACC is so much higher than everyone else's. They're attacking different things. They're attacking the exit fee. They're attacking the value that's been put onto the gore. So they're trying to take that down for the gore, but they're also trying to go after the exit fee cost, saying that it's punitive in nature.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate the comment. You need to consider becoming a member of the Big 12 College Football Mafia family because we love your comments. We'd love you to be more active in the community, and that membership would provide those privileges for Wild Ute University as well. Mr. Ed Wayner says, wouldn't ESPN want to focus televising game of teams that have a realistic chance to be one of the CFP 12? Also, how upset is ESPN with ACC by adding Calford, SMU, and having to pay more? Who wants to answer those questions?
I don't think that they're too excited. They were. I mean, this is like 6 months ago. They probably were not excited adding Cal and Stanford at all, or SMU. I can't imagine the ESPN was in love with that idea. They understand business, though. They understand how it works. And that was the agreement in the contract. And the ACC played that card. But still, obviously, they have some kind of relationship because they're suing FSU together. So there's that. Interesting bedfellows.
Anybody else?
I tend to think that maybe the ACC talked with them. Because it wasn't like a great deal for those schools coming in, right? Like SMU is basically, they're like, oh, you can come in for free if you want. I mean, we've got a bed out in the barn if you want to hang out. And, and then Calford's coming in. Aren't they only getting a partial too for a while? Or is that a full?
Yeah, they're getting partial, and then SMU's getting nothing.
Yeah, so ESPN, I don't think that they're mad about this. Like, I think they'd be mad about a full, but the fact that, I mean, we were talking about that when that happened. Like, this is insane that this deal actually happened. You get one for free and two for half, and ESPN does a lot of different sports on TV, and they're getting Stanford. They thought that they were losing that, so they got their West Coast stuff. Oh my goodness, we're about to have a match.
Yes.
All right, there you go. This is just for Mullen. Because I love him so much, and I want him to know how much I appreciate him.
Oh my God, I got to get a mask now.
You got 10 minutes to talk in that mask, Bomber.
The problem is I can't read the comments now.
Get his glasses on.
We can read for you. Sure.
All right, this is crazy. All right, let's see what I can do here. All right. Let's
the
see
smartest luchador ever, right there.
Let's see. Pat Schroeder, another one of our members, says psychosis is returned. What's that mean?
That's right. Psychosis. This is a mask of psychosis.
Oh, okay.
Yours is Blue Demon.
Blue Demon. I like that name. That's good. All right, Blue Demon. I love it.
Hey guys, speaking of Blue Demon, is there any chance that Duke gets into the Power 2 or the Big 12? Is that? Let's talk about the Demon Deacons.
All right, let's go around the horn. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like the Blue
Devil.
I don't think there's any chance Duke gets into any of them. I don't think Duke gets into the SEC, the Big 10, or the Big 12. I think Duke's left in the remnants, the ether of the ACC, and that's where they're going to end up.
Moen?
Yeah, I think they get left behind.
What do you think, Immaculate?
You know what I think? I think that Duke and Stanford and ND have got their old little plan going. So I definitely think Duke's staying in the ACC. I think, I don't blame the Big 12 for maybe reaching out saying, hey, how do you think? And Duke going, nah. They don't need to. It's just a little bit different world. So I think Duke is staying in the ACC, and that one is 100%.
You know what we should do, Moen, is we should make it like there's a special tag you can buy or a super chat you can do just for us to break out our luchador masks.
We should. We should. And the next
for
time
a certain amount, like
market,
$400.
The next time I go to the flea market, Immaculate's getting a Golden Rey Mysterio mask, a black.
Okay.
They had a black and yellow one there. I should got that for you.
Oh
and then I'll have to find
put a little GT right on the forehead. Just paste it on there. It can look cheesy, whatever.
I got to find a red or white mask for you.
That's right.
And we can all just come on here and.
Let me get to a couple more as we're winding this down. Dan Miter, one of our members, says, do you guys see a lot of this realignment going down before July 1st, before some of these teams joining the conferences? And really quick, before anybody else answers that, I never answered the Duke thing. I think Duke stays in whatever's left of the ACC, and they rebuild whatever they can with SMU and Stanford or Cal.
That's loco. That stuff is going around social media and everything. Like
they're going to the Big 12.
That's really absolute hogwash. There.
It is. Realignment's football, people. Football. No basketball realignment. Let's see. Before July 1st. Yes, that's what I would say too. Before, I think it's actually August 3rd or 4th, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Something needs to happen this summer. Spring, summer for movement, I think, before the new year starts. What do you guys think?
Definitely think we get some word on this stuff. If not actual announcements, some pretty solid words before football season. That's my line right there. They're not. I just don't see that this carrying into football as much. But then again, that would have been wrong last year. So I do think we'll get some of this court battle done before then.
Very good. Ute, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's about a 40% shot that we see real realignment happen before July 1st, and a very, very good shot that's going to happen before next February. I think it's probably going to happen during, right before football season occurs. That's when the break's going to happen, or a settlement, or during football season. So I think that's probably the realistic timeline to look for and everything. But there's no way the realignment doesn't happen before the ESPN opt-in.
Right. I don't think any party wants this dragging into football season. I think this will all be settled by August.
As a follow-up to that, there's this reply from Rock and Rand. He says, wait, people actually think Beta Jim Phillips brought 3 schools in and didn't get ESPN approval first? Bro, come on. I do believe that they were approved by ESPN, but that doesn't mean ESPN wanted them. This is a survivor.
Yeah, they were approved by ESPN to stop Notre Dame from joining Fox. I'm sure Notre Dame wanted this more than anybody else, and the ACC gave it to them, and it kept Notre Dame happy, and Notre Dame didn't join the Big Ten.
There was, okay. So one of the linkages with like the Utes actually considering going to the ACC was that if the ACC network entered into a new market, a new state, that they could actually get a pro rata based on the language of the ESPN agreement. That was like one of the ideas with adding Utah actually possibly over the ACC, because you're essentially paying for yourself by adding the ACC network to the state of Utah. I think the same would probably hold true with Cal in California and Stanford and also in Texas. So I think that's basically, they had no choice. ESPN didn't really have much of a say based on the language of the contract. As long as you added new states to the footprint, you were going to get pro rata to a level. In California, since you had 2 schools being added, maybe it was a half pro rata, but each team's only getting half the share too. So maybe they just added both those teams for half the share based on that pro rata. Then the SMU portion went to the existing members, and SMU's taking 0.
I think they're actually California ones only get 30%. They're not even half. Yeah. It's crazy. Macchio, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, of course he would have at least talked with ESPN about it. I mean, that's his sole business partner. It is interesting, though, that SMU is not going to get the boosted pay with the CFP as well, which, once again, ESPN is the only business partner of. So maybe someone else in the CFP voted for that. It had nothing to do with ESPN, or maybe they piped in saying, we're not paying more. So you guys decide if you want to take your cut on SMU or not, which if you ask that question, you know what the answer they're going to give. So ESPN might have got them on the back way through that. We don't know. But, yeah, I definitely think Phillips would have talked to him.
All right, guys, we're at the end of our show. We have been extremely busy tonight. I want to thank everybody that's been with us. Really quick, we're going to do some sign-offs. Everybody can kind of figure out what they're going to be doing tonight. And then tomorrow night, remember, we're going to have another show, a College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia show at 8 Eastern. Still working on a guest. I will have a guest host, obviously, will be Jen Santee from Florida State Booster will be with me tomorrow. And that should be a lot of fun. Let's see who normally goes first. Moen, why don't you go first this time?
Thank everybody for the well wishes and kind words and thoughts and prayers, and I leave you with a random sounder.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
Okay, you got Drunken Joe Namath.
That was Namath, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Immaculate. How about you?
I just keep watching this week. I'm edge of the seat for everything going on in that court battle. I know that stuff's probably very boring for a lot of people, but everything that we do get excited to talk about realignment wise is coming from that. So keep tuned into that. We are really thinking that there's going to be some movement on that this week, maybe next week. But time's running short. It's April is here. April, May, June, July. That's our timeline. It's 3 to 4 months. We've got stuff going, so I think we're going to see something this week. We'll see. Stay tuned.
You?
Yeah, I'm super happy to have Moen back in the house and sharing his luchador mask. The blast tonight. So kudos to you guys. Kudos to Bob Thompson and you, of course, the community and everything. What a fun show.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's been awesome. We really appreciate all the super chats, the new members, all the new memberships that we've been building over the last several months. We are a growing and exciting community, and there's just more fun stuff on the horizon. So if you have ideas you think we should be doing, leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up on the video. Send us DMs on Twitter or leave a comment underneath the video and give us ideas of other things that we could be doing. We're kind of trying to drive a lot of our content towards generated questions from you guys. So we really, really appreciate that. Other than that, I want to say peace out to everybody else. Have a great night. We will see you tomorrow. And no, I will not be wearing my luchador mask tomorrow.
Oh.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.